good to go. I'd like to call to order the Tuesday, July 7th, 2020 meeting for Information Technology Committee. The time is 10:02. First order of business, accepting the minutes from the March 10th, 2020 meeting. I have a motion to accept the minutes.
I'll move it.
So moved.
No.
Do we have a quorum at all to even do it?
Sorry. No, he is on committee.
If you can kick me out, that's okay. I no problem.
All right.
If I gotta be on it, I want a second.
Motion by Supervisor Higgs, second.
Well, as the vice chair, you can be on it, right?
No, we've got a quorum.
We got a quorum, so we just need a second.
Name is fleeting. Yeah, well.
Can I get a second on the minutes? Thank you.
A second.
Thank you, too. Second by Sue Cleary. All right. Order of business, County Attorney, Cybersecurity Report. Roger?
So we've continued to work on cybersecurity even remotely. It's one of those, fortunately, great jobs you can actually do from anywhere. Karen has flagged several attempts to penetrate our network and sent out several alerts from various nefarious emails that have circulated. I don't have any stats for you on our traffic. I got to imagine it's been somewhat down based on the number of people we've had here. But with people working from home, you know, you have some extra challenges in terms of security, but it doesn't look like we've had any problems generated through cybersecurity, at least because of our remote access, because of the materials that are put on all these computers, you know, two-factor authentication, things like that. Terry can talk to you much more about that, I'm sure, but it doesn't look like the remote work has really upped our, I'm sure it's upped our threat somewhat, but it doesn't look like we've experienced any ramifications as a result of working remotely at this point in time. Once we're back into normal operations, I think we're probably going to take a look and see if there's anything that we can do to improve, any place we, you know, fell short. But I know that from using it myself and working remotely occasionally that it's a pretty robust system that we're using, and it seems to have worked out pretty well for us. The only threats we've really seen that I've been told about are through, you know, various emails, which will continue forever pretty much. I've got several relatives in California or Canada rather that would like to give me a lot of money, I found out through this pandemic too, but other than that, things seem to be rolling along normally.
I've seen a lot of emails that have been trying to sell more cybersecurity service, so I'm not sure if that's a phishing email or I just ignore it, but...
Yeah, I would ignore almost. It's amazing the number of things you get, and it's much... I think our filter's catching a lot, because when I compare it to, say, my cell phone or some of the emails I have, I don't get as much here. Faxes are making a comeback, too, oddly enough. That's how my Canadian friends have contacted.
Did you ever get that $1 million?
No, actually, I'm up to about $3 or $4 million now. If I do it right, all I have to do is commit small fraud and defraud the Canadian government, and we'll be great. So, fax is making a comeback, I think, now, because things like filters are working so well. And by the way, I took out a bunch of loans on the county's business loan thing too. Those are
well, that's to be expected. Yeah.
So you know, Terry can probably speak much more to that, but our filter, I can't imagine what our filter's catching, you know, with the little that's coming through.
Awesome. All right. Any comments or additional remarks for Roger? All right. Thank you. On to Terry McNeil, update on projects and laptops for supervisors. Is Terry on mute, or do we have her on mute?
We can't hear you, Terry.
She's unmuted, but we...
Use Braille.
I can hear her typing.
She right down the hall, we can bring her line.
Pretty much.
You're now frozen in time.
We get the internet here? Probably a cyber attack.
That would be ironic, wouldn't it? Well, no,
Actually, this is just hazing Jim on your first meeting. She's doing it on purpose.
Yeah. I'm not up.
right.
It's a piece of business.
Can you guys hear me now?
We got you now, Terry, go ahead.
All right, sorry about that. The technical person that has a technical issue this morning. Go figure. If it's all right, I'll go ahead and share my screen with you folks.
Yeah, go right ahead.
So I thought this would be an easier way to maybe take a look at the projects. Skinny it down a little bit, 'cause the screens are a little bit smaller. Can everybody see that okay?
Yep. Yeah, that's good now. That's good.
Okay. So I guess to start off with, I'll just dive right into the project update, which is what you folks see on your screen right now. And along with the project update, if you guys have questions as you go through, just let me know. We have continued to work and continued to be extremely busy during this time, as you folks probably know. Remote work has been of course I got to click the right buttons. Remote work has been very, very busy. So just to kind of start off with the project updates, we have a couple on top that I did go ahead and move to yellow because they're taking a little longer, mostly actually almost completely because of COVID and our delay on those. So those are the two that are currently behind. We have picked back up on the Windows 10 deployment. We're getting that finished up, as well as Kronos, the Kronos upgrade. We did get all the clocks installed, which I think have been received well, especially from a sanitary perspective. The firewall, we have several phases of the firewall, 3 that I've added in here. The first one is complete. We were able to get that completed during the shutdown, which included new antivirus protection for all the computers, new content filtering, and I think that went through very well. We still have phase 2 for the servers and then some network segmentation to complete. Some upgrades to the financial apps for the treasurer's office, well, really for the entire county. The DR solution, which we've talked about in the past, is almost complete. We're 98%. We just have a little bit of adjustments to the configuration for the uploads each night. That'll be done. The time clocks, as I mentioned, they are done. We have one location left that we're waiting on a part from the manufacturer.
Okay.
The mobile device management solution has been on hold. That's something we really need to be in the office for, so I intend to get that moving again very shortly. And then down towards the bottom, these are all the projects that we've completed recently. So the truck communication for the SALT, the firewall phase 1, AV migration, which is antivirus, the new print server, the VPN expansion for the remote work. We were very lucky to have in place a great product that was very easy to expand on for the remote work, to keep everybody secure and also integrate the multi-factor authentication. We have set up a ton of loaner laptops in the range of about 90 that we've deployed, started to get some of those back, and we've also completed the CAD and Axon mapping integration. Anybody have questions on the projects?
I will say that new clock has gotten rave reviews from people that have used it, no longer requiring anybody to touch it to clock in. That I've heard probably more positive comments about that since people have come back. I think they were pleasantly surprised to be greeted by that when they came back, especially amidst all these concerns in general. But that's been really well received by the employees that are using it.
And I have yet to see anybody lick their fob to get the clock to work, so I think that's a big step forward.
I don't think you've waited long enough.
Sue, go ahead.
Terry, during this time, have you found any weak links, so to speak, that we could have done something differently because of the COVID-19?
I think that maybe the biggest remote or weak link, if you will be Actually, I don't know that I would call it a weak link. I think from a technology standpoint, this
Yeah.
has actually been an exciting time for me. I probably shouldn't talk positively, I guess, in that regard, but it has been a very positive time. We've had a lot of people adopt technology. Having Microsoft 365 and Teams has been great. And I've just seen so much more adoption of the technology. And I truly hope that as things continue to move forward, that people will continue to use the technology, and hope people will be more open to things that are out there. I think it's been a really, really positive thing from my perspective.
Thank you for all you've done, because I can't imagine us not having the ability to do what we're doing now 6 months ago. So we've come a long ways. So thank you.
Thank you.
Chris, you have a question?
Yeah, so Mrs. Claire, to your point, I'd like to just say a few things. One is that I think Terry and her staff deserve significant kudos because, you know, she mentioned it almost in passing that they have configured and deployed 90 loaner laptops. That's a Herculean effort in and of itself. And so they have been incredibly responsive, and really without the effectiveness of the IT department, we would have been truly crippled during the shutdown. As it was, we were able to be highly effective throughout this entire period. And as I'll get into later in the personnel committee, we continue to be highly effective in utilizing remote work in order to keep the density of the employees here in the building down. The other thing is that, again, almost mentioned in passing in Terry's project updates were some things that are really significant. And one is that Terry came to us 2 years ago and said, we need to replace our VPN client. We used to have this thing called Barracuda that was an absolute nightmare and never seemed to work, always kicked you out. Terry identified that as a problem back then, before remote work was really a thing for most people, right? And she transitioned us to the Pulse VPN. If we had not made that switch proactively, we would have been in a world of hurt, because as she said, the Pulse VPN client, it works. It's easy to use from the user's perspective, but it was also a scalable solution where before it was largely department heads who had laptops and we worked from home at night when we needed to and stuff like that. But then all of a sudden overnight we switched operationally where we were trying to have a huge number of employees be completely functional remotely. And if Terry hadn't made some of the switches and some of the advances that we've made in the last 2 years, we would not have been able to do that. So I think this goes to show that the investments the board has made over the last 18 months, 24 months have been hugely beneficial during this crisis time. And that, you know, the budget officer may smack me, we're certainly facing significant budget issues, but we need to continue to make investments in technology because we don't know what the new normal is and we don't know how long the current operational period is going to continue. So I wanted to say Terry deserves a lot of credit, and that to the board, I think we need to continue to make technology investments so that we can continue to move.
Thanks, Chris. And if you noticed in some of those projects, Terry and her staff, they were above pace. They were in front of a lot of those projects, finishing a couple months early on specific projects. So thank you very much, Terry. Any other comments, questions, concerns? Terry, if you could speak to the laptops for the supervisors.
Yeah, so I know there's been some discussion on issuing laptops to all the supervisors for county business. I'm open to having some discussion. I think that it would be a great thing to have everyone have a county issued laptop that then we could support. For example, if you folks had them at home and had a problem or ran into an issue, we can remotely help to correct those issues. They would all be protected with the county antivirus software, as well as the ability to access county resources in terms of email. We have OneDrive, Teams, or many other communication methods available. I don't know people's thoughts. I know we were going to just have some discussion about it today.
I think it's a good idea. It's definitely from a security standpoint, being able to have the personal laptop that's associated with the supervisor that's secured through our security. So I think it's a great thing. Other supervisors want to speak to that, or go ahead, Sue.
You know, Terry, I really tried for the last 2.5 years to keep my business and my personal life and my county town business in different machines. And finally, COVID-19 comes, and the only place I can get internet is in my home. So here we are in my home and I can't bring my antique hardware computer, Town of Salem things. It would take my van to fill it up to bring it all here. And then that wouldn't work anyway. So I think it's a great idea. Although I am using my personal laptop and that's working out fine. It's just, I don't put my county email on this machine. So I'm always asking Tim Hardy to send the meeting number and the password to here so that I can log in. There's other ways, but that's how I end up doing it. So yes, I think it's a great idea.
Dave, Brian?
So this subject came up a few years ago, and we talked about doing this and sort of pushed off. I think that it is important, especially if we're going to continue doing types of Zoom meetings or a combination of both, that allows people to have the access to the information right in front of them. One of the drawbacks of doing this Zoom is that we don't have the papers handed out and people off-site don't get the information. But it also allows access to information within the building through OneDrive. If we choose to do that, we get access to policies and other things that we may want to look at or look up, and we won't have to call Chris or Deb or anyone else to say, hey, can you send me this, can you send me that? We could have access to that. It may make us a lot more efficient. And I think that, it's a good idea to do. I would suggest we consider either doing laptops or maybe considering doing personal tablets, something like that, iPads, something like that. Maybe a little bit more effective for supervisors and less bulky for them to carry around, especially when they're bringing them back for the county. So just my input, I think it's a great idea. And go from there.
Brian?
Well, of course, most of us are on laptops today right now during the meeting, and I think, just seeing that this is one of the loaners that Chris referred to, and this is kind of what I would perceive every supervisor having, because the camera and everything's built right in, and you can be in a meeting and then as soon as you plug it in and press the button, you're up and running. And like Dave said, you could have a lot of information at your disposal, that, policies and handbook, everything could already be installed. You could look those things up at any time. And another point is, our supervisors are all different ages, and this puts everybody at the same level, and we can talk at different programs and things that work for us, but we'd all be using the same platform and be able to get the same information. And I think amongst ourselves, we can even figure things out and get through them. So I think it's well overdue, but I think probably the timing is perfect to roll this out. And I don't see any downside, and I guess if anybody does see downside, I would like to hear that, but I think this is a thing with, that should be 100% unanimous going forward. I don't see any downside at all.
Well, there's no downside, but the question I have is a budgetary, question.
Well, the computers are available because of the COVID.
Well, yeah, so, I'll defer to Terry to know what we actually have in stock. I think we have enough in stock to deploy them right now. And we bought, I believe, 2 rounds of laptops, and we've charged them to COVID.
Yep.
And I think I can make a pretty cogent argument that these are directly a COVID response, because we've never done Zoom meetings before, and we're doing this in order to facilitate adequate social distancing and to keep our board safe. So, I feel fairly confident, as much as I can be at least, that these will be covered COVID expenses.
And as Brian said, we don't know how long this is going to go on.
Correct.
So, and I foresee, Zoom meetings and us sharing on YouTube are very much part of it. I know a lot of the community members are watching, these YouTube videos and Zoom meetings and going back. So, Anybody else have any other questions? Go ahead.
Well, yeah, I think we should probably define the guardrails that we should keep on here too, because having my county email on a county laptop is a great idea, but because of what Sue mentioned, I want to make sure that people don't think it's their own personal laptop and upload very vacation photos on it. And we should be instructed, here are the guardrails you guys need to stay in between. Realize from Roger's standpoint, it's all foilable, that everything's on here. Keep it so there's no personal stuff, there's no town stuff. I need an education on how to do that.
No, I think that's a very good point. I think we would do that, and I think that one of the advantages that's been alluded to a couple times is by giving you a county-issued device, I think it will help all of you keep that proper segregation. And yes, I think we can put together, whether it's a 2-page laptop, but yeah, I think we could spell out what the do's and don'ts, if you will, and it'll help all of you keep that.
Tape it right to the cover of the laptop, so we can't open it without reading. Here's where you gotta tape it.
There you go.
Well, are there other things, go ahead, Brian.
Well, I was gonna go further, I was just gonna go with the timeline, I mean, we shouldn't get them until we have here's what the policy's gonna be for the supervisors with this laptop that you're gonna be presented with. And what you'll be allowed to have on it, what you'll have access to and not have access to, I mean, those things should all be lined up. The second thing is, due to COVID's rearing its head again, and we don't know when we could be locked out again and all those sort of things, I think time is more of the essence. And I didn't know, are we gonna be ready at the big board meeting? Is this something where everyone can come in, get their laptop, get their policy and move forward? I mean, are we that far along? Because if we are, I would think you'd wanna do this sooner rather than later. A little late after they say, oh, the building's all locked again and we can't get in. So I guess that was just another question.
Hey, I agree with Brian.
Yep, me too.
Yeah.
So, if we look at the policy, we have a policy for computer use in the county. That could be modified, I think, fairly easily, instead of going back to refresh and redo it. So I think that, Chris and Terry could probably get something together fairly quick just by modifying that policy.
I'm not sure it even needs to be modified. It already addresses loading things on. It all belongs to the county. You only use it as a separate. I mean, this is your first rodeo, but not ours.
Right.
So every time I sign on to my laptop, I acknowledge I read and understand the electronic communications policy for Washington County, and I have to hit an enter button.
We resolved that,
Right.
So, that policy exists. It probably needs to be looked at because it's been a while, but not because of this, I guess is my point. But we could issue you laptops and they say don't install things on it. So the way to keep your email separate is don't install the program on your computer that reads I assume it's not Outlook, or don't install the Outlook account if it is Outlook, any other than this one. So, we do have a policy. I think we probably could proceed to issue as soon as you guys wanted to do that. We'd have a training on the policy like we do for every employee that comes in and is handed a computer or any other device. And we could probably roll it out fairly quickly.
I would think, and Terry can object if she disagrees, but assuming that the hardware is available, which I believe it is, I think that Terry and Roger and I could coordinate and get any of that policy stuff addressed, and that to the budget officer's point, we could probably have these available for you by the big board meeting.
Yeah, I just think the sooner the better if we're gonna do it.
And also, a salient issue that Tim just emailed me is that looks like a new executive order was just issued that further extended the authority to hold virtual meetings.
Yeah.
So, this will continue.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Bob.
we've got loaners and things, and that's good, but were they intended to go somewhere? Are we by taking 17 of them out, are we taking away from another program that's supposed to be just waiting to get these things, and we're gonna have a wait for them?
I'll let Terry answer that, yeah.
Yeah, so we don't have anybody waiting on things at this time. As a matter of fact, we have laptops coming back that have been being returned. So we're in good shape to be able to issue the 17. At this point, we have some supervisors that don't have emails. So the issuance of email addresses, county email addresses, would come at the same time as the laptops. We could certainly have this ready by the board meeting.
Okay.
So, but to both of those points, and Terry and I have not had a chance to have this conversation because things happen quickly these days. What I would like to run past the committee today is that, as Terry just said, and as we'll discuss in personnel, more and more departments are bringing employees back here 100% of the time. So if they have loaner laptops, they're giving them back to IT because they don't need them. I believe, and I would like the committee's support in this, in that we as an organization need to prepare that there may be some restriction of operation again in the near to long future, right? So sometime in the next 6 months, we are likely facing some contraction of our operational stance again. So what I would like the ability to do is to work with Terry in assessing what hardware we have, and even though we may have some extra laptops now that are coming back from departments, I would like the ability to work with Terry and potentially make another laptop buy, so that if we are shut down again in the fall, or you know, some degree of shutdown, we have adequate hardware to deploy to everybody. So I think it's great that we've got most employees back and things are kind of returning to some semblance of normalcy, but I don't think that we can count on that continuing unabated.
Right.
So in essence, again, that would be COVID related?
Yes.
Come under the same program?
Yes.
So,
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Sue. And then Paul.
Dana Half always talks about having the 2020 budget in his file cabinet inside the Washington County building. Is there any way we can get a download of the 2020 budget for Dana Half on each of these individualized computers? I'd like one too. No, just
Yeah, we'll give you a PDF of the budget, yep.
Okay, thank you.
Paul, do you have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I totally support this as well. I think it's a really great idea and moving forward. Do you need a motion to set this
Yes,
forward?
Do we need a motion to push this forward? I'll entertain a motion to supply the laptops to the supervisors at the next board meeting, the board supervisors meeting.
Okay.
Motion by Sue.
So I'd like to move this.
Yeah, okay, moved by Paul, second. Second by Sue Clary. Any other comments or dialogue? No? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Any other business, to talk about? All right.
I don't think so.
Being none and seeing nobody with any other, hands in the air of business, entertain a motion to adjourn. No one, motion by Sue, second by Paul. Thank you.
2-minute break from personnel, is that okay?
That sounds good?
Is that all right?
now that Kathy's just getting connected.
Gives me time to get a cup of coffee. Love it.
She's been on,
I was thinking of you.
Hey, I was on by phone. Give me a break.
Do this with the supervisor.
Okay, we're gonna start in just a minute, we're just trying to get one more laptop up and ready to go.
So like your name's all saved in there?
Yeah,
have your email on there, you can click on the.
I just sent
like
them.
That was really nice.
Fire her up and head on there.
What part of the template, I think?
We are literally just after lot 12, like 100 feet past the end of lot 12. Once the lock's open, we go all the way down to Fort Edward, so.
Yeah, we got a couple of our favorite restaurants.
And then from where we are,
Jim,
we just go up the canal, maybe a mile and a half, and we're in South Bay. We're too big to go under the railroad bridge.
On the screen,
South Bay, so we just need to go into the kind of side.
Yeah, I'm glad mine are out of there, I'm gonna not work hard not to send them back, still the same. But, my parents are there, all that, they're just no longer with us.
What do you think, Ted?
You ready?
Ready? Okay, let's call the personnel meeting to order. I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes from the June 11th, 2020 meeting. Dave will move it. I need a second from Jay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, department staffing requests and staffing pattern changes. Melissa, we're gonna have you jump right in and start, off, and Department of Public Works.
Good morning. The first staffing request we have are from the Department of Public Works. These backfill requests were all approved at the.
Hey, Melissa,
Yes.
Can you increase your volume, or do we need to do it here, Tim? We can kind of barely hear her.
I'm as loud as I can go on my end.
Okay. You have to yell. Yeah, you might have to yell, Melissa.
Okay, can you hear me now?
That's better.
All right, let her rip. Yep.
So these backfill requests were all approved at the Public Works Committee level and then forwarded to the Personnel Committee. The first request is to backfill a Highway Supervisor 2 position. This was a position where the incumbent retired, and Deb has asked to backfill that as soon as possible.
Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Jay, do I have a second?
Second.
Dave, any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Are these cascading as we go down this list right here? You want to go through that a little bit?
Yes, with the approval of the Highway Supervisor 2, that does result in a cascade effect for the next few positions that I'll mention now. Would you like me just to mention them all?
Yes.
Okay, so with that Highway Supervisor 2 position backfill, that results in a vacant Highway Supervisor 1 position, a Highway Worker 3 position, a Highway Worker 2 position. So we would like to backfill all of those positions.
So ultimately, those first 4 on the agenda are just really one initial backfill. There's no change in the number of people. It's just a cascading effect.
Correct. So we want to right. Highway Supervisor 1, Highway Worker 3. Correct. No additional people, just backfills.
All right, so the next one is the Highway Supervisor 1. Do I have a motion to backfill that? Jay? Second by Don. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Next, backfill Highway Worker 3
So moved.
by Jay. Seconded by Don. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And then to fill that position, we're going to backfill Highway Worker 2.
So
Moved by
moved.
Jay. Seconded by Don. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And the last 2 in DPW, Melissa?
Deb also has 2 vacant Highway Worker 2 positions that she, when she went to her committee, said that she could hold off on hiring for these 2 positions until September 1st. So these 2 Highway Worker 2 positions we would like to fill beginning of September.
And these 2 positions were approved in the DPW committee to backfill in September.
In September, correct.
Okay. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Dave and Jay, discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All right. Opposed? Carried. All right, next, Melissa?
Next, the Public Defender has a vacant part-time Assistant Public Defender position. That was a retirement that was the beginning of May, and Mike would like to backfill that position.
Do I have a motion? Dave and Don? Any discussion? Chris, this is probably covered?
Short answer, yes, this is covered by the Harrell Herring settlement, and one of my cautions to the board would be that if we were not to fill this position, we're already experiencing this. Remember that one of the 4 components of the Harrell Herring settlement is that we are subject to caseload standards. With the removal of this part-time attorney from the public defender staff, we have begun creeping up against our caseload maximums, and so we are shunting some cases over to the assigned counsel panel. From a cost perspective, it would be my preference that we fill this part-time public defender position and keep that augmented caseload ability within the office as opposed to diverting more cases to the assigned counsel panel.
Al?
Just for clarity, this is not one of the Harrell Herring positions. This part-timer is actually part county funds and part distribution funds. doesn't really change anything, but it is funded a little differently than Harrell Herring.
Okay, thank you. Any, do we have a motion, Deb?
Yes.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, Deb, or excuse me, Melissa, let's go to the sheriff.
Next request is from the sheriff. This is actually going to result in a staffing pattern change. He has asked to add one new deputy sheriff to the staffing pattern. He does have a senior civil enforcement officer who is expected to retire in the next month or two. So upon that retirement, he would like to remove that position from the staffing pattern. The reason he's asking to hire the new deputy now is because the academy is only offered twice a year. And in order to get someone into this July academy, he needs to hire now instead of waiting a month or two.
Okay, so we're going to be removing the senior civil enforcement officer upon his retirement, where we're going to institute the deputy sheriff, additional deputy sheriff now so they can make the academy.
Correct, and there is a significant pay difference between the two positions. The senior civil enforcement officer is over $30 an hour. Of course, when we hire a deputy at the trainee level, it's $14.90 an hour.
Okay, I have a motion. Moved by Dave, seconded by Sue. Any further discussion? Not seeing any. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next.
Next request from the sheriff, also, if this is approved, would result in a staffing pattern change. He currently has one part-time assistant cook that is vacant. The other part-time assistant cook position is currently filled. What he would like to do is take the part-time assistant cook that is filled and make him a full-time assistant cook. If that is approved, then he would remove the two part-time assistant cook positions from the staffing pattern.
And this was vetted through Public Safety Committee, correct?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Motion by Don, seconded by Dave. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Senior account clerk.
Yes, the sheriff also has a senior account clerk position that is vacated now. That person actually transferred to another department, so he's looking to backfill that again as a senior account clerk.
All right, do I have a motion?
Make a motion, move it forward.
Motion by Don, seconded by Jay. All right, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Fire coordinator.
Yes, public safety has the fire coordinator position. That person actually has a retirement from a school district, so he is asking to be removed from the county payroll for one full day so that he can go through his retirement. So we would like to remove him and then backfill that position, which would actually result in a board resolution to reappoint him to the position.
All right, do I have a motion?
Make a motion, move it forward.
Got Don, second. Dave, discussion? Brian?
Will this come up like ahead of the board meeting, so that at the board meeting we reappoint him? Is that right here in July, or are we still a ways out on this?
He actually, his last day would be July 24th. So if he, if that could go before the board on the 17th to either reappoint him or choose not to, that would be great. And then he could go back on, I believe we were looking at the 28th.
Okay, well, I didn't know if we could reappoint before he was not unappointed. I mean, before he retires, can we That's why I was wondering.
I'll defer to Roger, but I believe that we could craft a resolution saying that he resigns effective the 24th, let's say, and is reappointed effective the 28th.
Yeah, I think we'd wanna double check with the retirement system on that.
Yeah, I'd wanna make sure we did it right, because
I don't
otherwise
wanna
we might
mess
get
him up.
started to wait till August and do it the day before the board meeting and then just reappoint him the next day.
Yeah,
Melissa, can I assume he's got a specific date he's got for his retirement?
he needs to be off the payroll for the 24th. That would be his last day. And then he can be reappointed the next week is fine.
I just don't know if we can do that. I just wanna make sure it's all,
Yeah,
that's all.
Try to double check Albert.
How'd we do it for the point?
It was the last day of the year, and he was, and he was coming in as an election on January 1st.
All right.
So this one's a little different, I just don't wanna mess something up on the guy.
Well, no, it will mess him up because his retirement is he's already talked to New York State Retirement. So his last day will be the 24th of July. Is the question when it should
Oh,
go?
it's just, okay, just on the reappointment act, so the retirement will be okay then.
Right.
The question is the reappointment, because he has to be off, and so clearly, this is done all the time. It's not like where he's asking us to do anything that's not done a lot. But the resolution coming before the actual date that he has to be off shows that it's an intent issue, and if they're okay with that, then I have no problem doing it, but what I don't wanna do is unintentionally mess up that you gotta be off the date for a job it's not even his full-time job, it's his part-time, whatever, and it can affect the amount of money you can draw, it can affect a lot of things, so if we can do it, let's do it, but if you don't see it, it will probably be because there was an issue with it. So I just wanna double check before, I'd like the committee, if the committee so desires, go ahead and say, yes, we'll accept his resignation and reappoint him, and then we'll figure out the how, what, and when. Right, just to make sure we're on the right track with him.
How we doing, Al?
My only question is, especially now in our world of Zoom, is it all that hard to just have a special board meeting on the 28th to reappoint him?
It probably isn't, but there's still no reason we can't appoint somebody on the 17th as of the 28th. Is there? That's
the question.
Okay, and you're gonna check that out?
Normally, I would say no.
Okay.
However, because these dates, because we're involved in the retirement system, so, in other words, if I came to you and said, your fire coordinator is quitting, but I can't start for a week, and you're appointing somebody else, I would say, that's no problem, you just appoint them effective. But there's a couple things at play here involving this individual, and I just wanna make sure we're doing it right,
So if we see it at the board meeting, we know that you've got it taken care of and it's done right.
Cleared it.
And Al's point is that if we need to do something different, it's not the end of the world to call a special Zoom board meeting just to do this.
Right.
Okay. All right. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Public health, explain this one to us now, Melissa.
Okay, Public Health has a seasonal position, which is called outreach worker. It's a per diem position. This position, because it goes off the payroll at the end of each season, we have to bring it forth to get it approved to go back on. So it's a seasonal outreach worker position. It's per diem. It's grade 9, base is $17.51 an hour. And there is WIC funding at state and federal that funds this position.
Okay. Do I have a motion? Don, do I have a second? Sue, you smiled. Is that a second, Sue, when you smile like that? Oh, okay, that's what I thought. All right, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, carried.
Next, in public health, there is a WIC program coordinator position. They're expected to retire on August 1st. Patty has asked to backfill this position. That current rate of pay is $33.35 an hour. If backfilled, it's grade 21 base, which is $30.33 an hour, which is a decrease.
And this would be a backfill as of that date, and this is also funded?
Correct. This is funded, WIC funded state and federal.
Do I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Don, seconded by Dave. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Next.
Also in public health, there is a WIC senior program nutritionist. This position has been vacant. Patty would now like to backfill this position. It's a grade 18, which is $27.07 an hour.
Do I have a motion? Dave? Second by Don. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, Melissa?
And then also in public health and WIC, there are 2 WIC program nutritionist positions that Patty would also like to backfill. Some of these are because of the movement to fill the WIC program coordinator. So it's kind of a cascading effect. These base amounts are $24.88 an hour.
Do I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Don, second by Dave. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay?
And our last item from public health, Patty has asked for the current WIC program coordinator to come back after retirement at the base of $30.33 an hour. It would be part-time on a temporary basis, probably for up to 3 months to help the department get through the budget season and of course train the new person in that position. So that is a staffing pattern change.
Do I have a motion? Dave, second. Don and Sue. So this would be a staffing pattern change for a temporary program coordinator. Does it have a sunset on it, Melissa? Or we're gonna have to go back at a certain point and take it out of the staffing pattern?
I did talk to Patty and she had agreed that 3 months should probably be okay for that position. So we could sunset it at 3 months. If there's issues, I'm sure she'll bring it back to her committee.
You have a question, Jay?
Yeah, where is it in the budget that's paying for this?
She says that for this position, it's also through the WIC funding, through the state and the federal.
Al?
Ed, yeah, I was just want to follow up with Jay's question. We're sure that there's enough in the WIC grant to cover this because that's not unlimited funds.
According to Patty, she does have the funding for it.
Okay.
I think because she's had the senior nutritionist position vacant for a considerable amount of time, I think that's the breakage that she's relying on.
Right, but I think
Okay.
the WIC grant doesn't go on our fiscal year. It's on a different fiscal year. So I just want to make,
It's on Fed.
it's on a federal fiscal, right, which starts October 1st. I just want to make sure we're covered, that's all.
Okay. So July, August, September then?
Yep.
Okay. Perfect. So just to be sure, this will sunset automatically in 3 months and this is WIC funded. Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, does that conclude our backfills, Melissa?
It does.
Okay, that was enough of those. All right, a couple things we want to go over. Temporary positions, but there's also one thing I wanted to mention. Just to let you know, we've tried to compile some information so everybody knows where we stand on things. Based upon our backfills from January, February, and March, obviously we do a lot of backfills at times. During those 3 months, I just want to let you know that we only did 6 backfills in those 3 months. So we've been pretty tight on what we've been working on here. 1 DMV motor clerk, 1 buildings and grounds laborer, 1 deputy sheriff, 2 highway workers, and a communications officer. The rest of all the backfills that we did prior to the COVID shutdown were summer positions, which sunset, and sewer positions. So we really only had six total. On the temporary positions that we have currently because of COVID, I just want to bring everybody up to date on that and make sure that I've got it straight, and Melissa, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Currently, the COVID, which were deemed necessary during the emergency closure, there were 4 registered professional nurses in public health and 1 part-time clerk, right, Melissa?
Correct.
Okay. In public safety, there was a typist upgraded to Director of Public Safety. And in the Office of the Aging, there was an Aging Services Aide, correct?
Secretary to Director of Public Safety, yes.
Secretary to the Director of Public Safety, right? And one Aging Services Aide in Office of the Aging.
Yes.
Okay. And and am I correct to say that when the emergency closure that the chairman declares ends, these positions then are vacated, they end, correct?
That was the expectation with these temporary positions, yes.
Okay.
Just to make you aware that the one in the Office of the Aging, that one Aging Services Aide that was added, that actually has gone to one of the per diem spots that Gina had already gotten permission to backfill. So that has already gone away.
Okay. Jay, do you have a question?
Yeah, what about the 4 per diem drivers for Meals on Wheels? They're kind of result of the COVID. Do we just stop hiring them or calling them up when the emergency is over, or how do they work too?
Those were actually added, not just for this COVID time period, but that is expected to continue. So that was a staffing pattern change that Gina.
That was done by the full board last month.
Well, and that was a result of CWI not being able to deliver meals, so
Right.
that was a whole different ball of wax.
So I just wanted to, go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, I just thought the CWI had quit delivering because of the COVID. That was, maybe I misunderstood there. That was all.
Well, we think they might not be coming back as a result of COVID too.
Okay.
But they were part of the declaration of the emergency closure. So I just want to know that, everyone to know that these positions are there. They're only there because of COVID. If the COVID emergency changes, they disappear. So we need to assess these, address them if they need to be taken care of as we get close to that. But Chris, we really have no idea how long this is going to go on for.
We don't, and I think, certainly it's up to the chairman when our emergency declaration is lifted. But I would respectfully request that the board defer to Patty if and when the chairman gets to the point that he is contemplating lifting the emergency declaration, that the committee have a conversation with Patty to see if she needs authorization to continue with those additional nurses that she's brought in. My suspicion is going to be that she does need to continue. The other one of particular concern is the typist position that was modified down in public safety. So as a brief recap, there were 2 typist positions that were created in public safety in response to the new speedy discovery requirements that were adopted in the 2019-2020 state fiscal year budget. And those positions, I believe, were initiated in November of last year. And the 2 typists were originally approved for public safety in order for them to package 911 calls and get them to the DA in a timely manner. At the beginning of the COVID shutdown, what the director and deputy director of public safety realized was that the discovery workload was not quite as onerous as we had initially thought it might be, and that they had been able to recruit a very competent employee. So the decision that was made toward the middle of the shutdown or so was the public safety department actually let go one of the typists, and the remaining typist during the shutdown, because the director and deputy director were so stretched thin with all their duties, they asked that typist to take on significantly increased duties to help the department continue to function. And in a conversation with the director and with the personnel officer, it was my recommendation that we bump that title up so that the individual in that typist position was not working out of title. I think in my subsequent conversations with the director of public safety, there would be a need, or at least a desire, if the board would entertain it, to keep that individual at the secretary to the deputy, or secretary to the director of public safety position moving forward, because they eliminated the other position.
So as of right now, we're okay because we're under the emergency closure. We can keep the way we are. But as we transition out of that, we'll have to be proactive to have Melissa vet the position, classify the position, have them go to the recommendation, work it through the process to get to that point.
Yeah, and I think there may be some additional conversation that needs to happen between Melissa and Glenn to make sure that it's the appropriate title. At the time, we were in a crisis, and we just kind of fished around for something that would expand her duties sufficiently to let her help keep the department functioning. Maybe there's a better fit out there, but I think the enhanced duties are necessary for the department now that they've shed the other position. So yes, to your point, I think we need to go through that position and do it sooner rather than later, so that if, you know, everything works out and if the chairman's able to rescind the emergency declaration, then that position is continuing.
Gotcha. Anybody have any questions on that, Brian?
So this could even involve testing or anything then, according to how the Plate Health.
Depending on how it's classified.
Okay.
Correct. Okay, and on the other positions, which were the public health positions, Al, I think I got this information from you. If you can all remember back 3 months ago, when the world was completely different here, the amount of payroll in public health, for instance, on 4/9 was about $4,700. On 4/23 was $6,600. May 7th, it was $6,800. May 21st, it was $7,100 as things were peaking. But on June 4th, it went down to $3,800. On June 18th, it was $1,800. And on July 2nd, it was $1,600. So when things got ramping up, Patty was using those personnel quite a bit, and now things are tapered off. So those positions have come down quite a bit in cost over that time, but they're still in effect until the emergency closure stops. Any questions on that at all?
Just a point on that, Chairman Hicks, that as you may have seen from Tim's updates over the last couple of days, the persons under monitoring is beginning to pick up significantly. And if that trend continues, I would expect those numbers in your hand right there to follow that curve.
I didn't want everybody to think that, you know, we were spending $7,000 every pay period, you know, 2 months ago, and that it's still there. It's actually come down quite a bit, but it's going to fluctuate depending upon.
It's roughly, there's going to be a pretty strong correlations between the persons under monitoring metric and that number.
Okay.
Good overview.
Any questions on that? Okay, a couple more things. Melissa, we put backfill process up. We just want to talk about what the backfill process is, so everyone's aware of it, that we want to talk about.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch upon that briefly, just to remind everyone that the current process is kind of new. So the department heads are coming to me first to discuss what they need as far as backfills, and of course, new positions, which they've always done. And then they are going to their committees, where it's either being approved or not approved and forwarded to personnel or not forwarded. So we're still working through this new process. Hopefully it's working for everyone. I don't know, I guess there are more people being aware of the backfills, which I think is probably a great idea. But please let me know if there's information that you're not feeling you're getting, that maybe I can work on to make sure that you do get the appropriate information.
So we want to make sure the supervisors know, Chris, you're informing the department heads this is the process. The department heads are working through the process to go to Melissa first, then to the committees, and then to personnel, just so that it's transparent, everyone knows what's going on and how we work this through. We have the budget officer to talk about, you know, our backfill process and our budgeting situation. You have a question, Brian?
Yeah, Melissa, you're seeing a little bit of positive from it then, so it's working okay in your office going this through?
It's working okay. It's a little more difficult on my end, just because I have to make sure that I know what the department head is actually bringing to their committee, and what's being passed or what's been maybe amended at committee and being passed. But I'm sure we'll work that out as we go.
Okay. Anybody have any questions on the backfill process? Okay, the last thing, Chris, does everybody have a copy of this? Will you email a copy of this?
Could I bring one point up before we go to that?
Sure,
under back?
sure.
So I don't know if this violates the process that we just discussed. But as you may remember, at the last Government Operations Committee, the issue of the coordinator to safety officer came up for backfill. Then there was some subsequent conversation about the potential of the rehoming the safety officer, if you will. I think there have been some preceding conversations, and that is not going to be pursued. So, what I would throw out to the committee is there a desire to authorize the filling of the coordinator to the safety officer position at this time, or would you like it to go back to government ops for further discussion?
Well, first of all, I believe that was funded for half of the year, correct?
Starting July 1st.
Starting July 1st. Melissa, I'm just gonna go out there and say, I think we should follow the process as much as we possibly could and have the department head go to you and then it go to the oversight committee. Is that reasonable?
Yes, the only reason I bring it up is that the department head had talked to Melissa, went to the oversight committee.
Yeah, it already happened.
Then we kind of went down a rabbit hole.
Okay.
We're kind of back. So I didn't know if you want to go back to the oversight committee or you want to just move forward. I'm okay with either. I just wanted to see what the will of the committee was.
Any discussion on that? Dave?
I think he followed the process. It was his voluntary to put a hold on filling the coordinator position. So it's voluntary. I'm not sure why it has to go back through the cycle again, because it's already been through the cycle. And part of when we discussed that, the actual process, and Governor Bass was first part of this because there's some confusion, is that I thought the determination was it had been through the process, they continue the process, they didn't have to go back through again.
Well, technically, it was pulled. Filling of that position was pulled in the committee. So my feeling is, let's do this transparent, let's do it right, let's walk every step through so we don't cut any corners and
That's fine with me. I just wanted direction.
Roger, you okay with that?
I'm okay with starting wherever you want to start.
How about at the beginning?
Sounds good.
Okay. All right.
Very fine place to start is Julie Anderson.
Okay, I have one more thing, and I was asked by a supervisor to kind of get an update on where we stand with the different departments in staffing situations. There's been a lot of transitions, and of course, some of us are only here once or twice a week, maybe at the most. Or Chris, you're here every day, and the departments are here every day, and what's the status of this department, and who's coming in, and who's working from home, and how often are they working from home, and how often are they coming in, and who's still at home but being paid but not working, and trying to get a grip on that, because it seems to be a moving target, and it's in transition all the time. So I'm hoping that we could kind of, if you don't mind, walking through the departments to kind of give an overview. They're not homogeneous, you can't compare them all the same, but at least try to give the supervisors an update on where they stand in case somebody asks. I've had several people ask me about DMV and gotten several different answers from the public that what they think is going on. Do you mind walking through that, Chris? Is that okay? Does everyone, you email this to people, or?
So what I've done is I've shared my screen. I think the folks that are here may have a hard copy.
Okay.
This will be sent out with the minutes afterwards. And I'll walk through it pretty quickly. If anybody has any particular questions, go ahead and jump in at any time. When I originally started out trying to put this together, what I wanted to be able to give Chairman Hicks was a spreadsheet, right? Because you know me, I'm a spreadsheet guy. That very concisely summarized exactly where our operational stance is. It didn't take me very long to figure out that wasn't going to work, because I already had like 19 columns, and you weren't going to be able to get anything from it. So the good news I take from this is that our department heads, in my opinion, are doing a very good job of managing their departments with the guidelines and the recommendations that we've given them as far as trying to serve the public, complete their mission, and reduce the density of staff in the building when possible and when practicable. And I think they've done a great job with that. So just very quickly, I'm going to walk through and give you a sense of where people are. So in alternative sentencing, you got one person working from home 4 days a week. 90% of the staff effective yesterday is in the office, 90% of the time, 10% remotely. Everybody in alternative sentencing who's not physically present in the building is able to work effectively from home. Assigned counsel, you got the supervising attorney coming in every day as normal. He's got 2 support staff. Unfortunately, this is not unique to assigned counsel. The 2 support staff have no internet at their homes. So they are alternating. Basically, how we're doing it is, you work 2 days 1 week, 3 days the next week. So you're working 5 days or 50% out of the pay period. These 2 individuals are not able to work effectively when they are not here in the building because neither one has internet at their home. Board of Elections, all staff working have been for several months now. Buildings and Grounds, again, all staff working here and have been for quite some time. Clerk of the Board, departments at full staffing, nobody's working remotely, and no employees are home unable to work. county administration, I'm here every day, like I have been. My purchasing coordinator is working, 2 days in the office, 1 day remotely, normally works 3 days a week. My other two staff, I've got one who's in the office Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. The other one is in the office Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, so I have 1 day of overlap, which I found is helpful for communication and the handing off of projects. And both of those staff members are extremely productive working remotely. What I have found, I haven't been able to work remotely much. I've been here every day. But man, when I work remotely, I am so much more efficient because my phone doesn't ring and I can just turn my email off and I can actually like get projects done. And specifically for Sue, when Sue is home, oh my God, can she pound out work. So there is some huge benefits to me being able to tell Sue work from home for a couple days, because like the big complicated budget stuff that would take her a week here because she's getting pulled in a million different directions, she can pound out in 2 days at home. It's been phenomenal. County attorney, safety officer has been working his tail off throughout this entire thing. It's kind of the normal for Phil. He's in the field all the time. He has been for years and will continue to work remotely effectively. He just this week, he's transitioning into some training here, so you're going to see him more in the building. But Phil's kind of doing his thing and has been doing his thing. The cybersecurity officer is working 100% remotely, as the county attorney mentioned in the IT committee. Right now, attorney staff in that department is about 50% in the office, 50% remote. That's really just going to be tied to court activity, and the courts are all over the place. I get told one thing by the administrative judge one day, and then it changes the next day. So all of our departments that closely interface with the courts are a little fluid at the moment. 2 support staff members in that department can't really work effectively from home, but they are back in the office 100%. County clerk, DMV has been cranking away for quite some time. County clerk and archive staff is back in the office 100%. The only person down there who's not in her office is the historian. She's not really able to work effectively from home. I spoke to the county clerk this morning. She was going to reach out to the historian and see if she felt comfortable coming back in. She is an at-risk population, so I think we'll defer to her on that, whether the historian feels comfortable coming back or not. District attorney, as the court started to open up over the last couple of weeks, he's transitioned from being highly effective and all of his staff working remotely to everybody's back 100% in the office. IT, whole staff has been working tremendously remotely throughout this. Right now, 5 employees are back full-time in the office, and those are the employees that are working with other departments more frequently. And there's 5 more staff who are working full-time remotely, and they're the ones that tend to deal more with software and don't interface with the departments quite so much. Of those 5 employees who are working remotely, they are here whenever they need to be. So Terry's here this morning, and it's Lisa McDonald. I know she's working with Sue and Al on a big data poll for us to start doing the payroll forecasting for the budget. She may have to come in to do that. So they're coming in when needed, but otherwise working very effectively remotely. Personnel, she's got employees working remotely 1 to 2 days a week. 1 employee working remotely 3 days a week. They're in the office the rest of the time. The 1 employee is 3 to 4 days in the week, unable to work remotely. That was a hardware limitation, so the personnel officer has just put in a request for a laptop for that individual. Once we get that laptop deployed, that person will be able to work remotely effectively. Personnel officer is here every day, all day, like she has been for the past quite a while. Planning director and the planner are rotating, so there's somebody in the office every day, and they're working remotely when they're not in the office. Probation director platooned his staff so that they're rotating every 2 days between the 2 platoons. In his note to me, he would like to bring all his employees back again because I think court activity is beginning to pick up. He feels confident that he's got sufficient space to have adequate social distancing. And the other thing that is in his benefit is there's a lot of field work in probation. So about 10 of his employees share office space, but they may not be at the desk at the same time. So he's going to start ramping up to 100% in person. Public defender, all of the staff are reporting daily. So rather than platoon, 2 days on, 2 days remote, 2 days on, 2 days remote, what he's doing is he's got 2 shifts, a morning shift for 4.5 hours and an afternoon shift for 4.5 hours. Everybody's reporting to the office. But again, tied directly to the courts. He's anticipating bringing his staff back to 100% in office soon as courts begin to ramp up. Public health, obviously, all staff still pedal to the metal as it has been throughout this. Public safety, same boat. Everybody, all hands on deck, have been, will be. Real property, all employees are working full hours in the office right now. They had a July 1st deadline that all their staff was in, working up to that. Now that they've reached that, they're probably going to go to a little bit of a mix of 2 days remote or 1 day remote per week, the rest in office. Again, everybody who's remote in that office is able to work effectively. Sewer district, all the employees are back 100% except for the executive director. He's splitting 50% remote, 50% on site. Sheriff's Department, jail, road patrol continue normal operations they have throughout this. Fiscal permit and civil office are back to full-time. I think there's one employee not back, but she's on maternity leave, so I don't think that really counts as COVID. Treasurer's in every day, he has been. Deputy treasurer is two to 3 days in the office, 2 to 3 days remote. She can be very effective remotely. His other staff is working 2 or 3 days in the office and the others home. Due to the nature of the work in that office, he's one of the few departments that when the staff is not present, they can't effectively work from home other than the deputy treasurer. So, veterans, you've got the director and the deputy. They're, again, not unlike probation, they're in the field all the time. So they're rotating between the director and the deputy director to get office coverage, and then the other one's out in the field when they're not in the office. Right now, their clerk is working 1 day a week because of the information they deal with. The clerk cannot effectively work remotely, but I think they're going to increase her presence in the building moving forward. And the driver of the veterans van is working part-time hours as he normally does, and it's kind of when veterans need transportation. There was a lull of veterans going down to the VA in person. That's starting to pick back up again, so the driver is getting busier as we start transporting our veterans. Weights and measures, the sealer's back to his normal thing. Out there sealing gas pumps mainly is what he's focusing on right now. He always does and will continue to work effectively remotely. He does come in here when he needs to, but that's honestly pretty seldom. In WIC, coordinators full-time in the office. The 5 full-time staff are in the office 4 days, remote 1 day. 2 part-time employees are working their regular schedule in the office, and she's got 2 peer counselors who work purely remotely. State WIC sent out some guidelines that said these services to clients can continue remote through the end of July. We are starting to see some things like we just saw this morning with the new EO that pushed out the ability to carry out teleconference meetings through August. Some things from the state are starting to, extend the operational guidelines we're under, so I wouldn't be surprised to see something like that from WIC as well. Now, too late for me to put it in the report. Let me stop sharing my screen here for a sec. I got an update from DSS. Okay, so for OFA, you'll notice I didn't mention OFA and DSS. They were a little bit late in getting that information. So in OFA, 8 part-time and per diem staff are working in the field at normal hours. And 4 full-time staff are in the office 100%. That includes the director. 3 full-time staff are working flexed hours, part in the field, part remote work. They will be back to full regular office field hours next Monday. And all of her employees who are not in the office are able to work effectively remote. In DSS, we have 118 full-time staff have returned to normal hours in the building. 20 staff are still not in the office. Only 3 of them are able to work remotely. So currently in DSS, we've got 17 employees who are not in the office and not able to work remotely. So all told, we're in the mid-20s as far as employees who are home and unable to be productive. And that is hard for me to summarize on a spreadsheet because it's going to vary on any one given day based on where people are in their platoon.
Well, I appreciate you going through this, Chris. I know it's a lot of work. I just think the supervisor should be updated on where we stand from a global standpoint, because we don't really know.
Sure, no,
And then the question is, who's here, who's not here, who's working remotely, who's not working, and all, blah, blah, blah. You kind of fill this in, and I know it's a moving target. I'm not gonna ask you to update it every meeting, but as things develop and transition, just keep filling us in. I wanna make sure that anybody who's on has any questions for Chris on any of the departments.
Matt, I have a question. It's Dana.
Hey, Dana.
Hey, Chris, just out of curiosity, did I hear you say sewer district is working normal hours with their general staff, yet the executive director is working a 50-50 approach?
Yes, sir.
Why is that?
Mr. Brilliant had COVID, so he has been slow to recover. He's still under the weather from it.
Okay. Fair enough.
So
That's
he's
all I would say.
being pretty productive from home. I know I get odd hour emails from him all the time.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Does anybody else have? Dave, go ahead.
So, I think you hit a couple key points that a lot of employees are being extremely productive from home. Is there any thought process to looking at developing a policy for working home on general guidelines, or are we gonna shy away from that at this point?
Yes, I think there should be, well, I don't know.
And yes, we're gonna shy away from looking at it.
Yes.
Well, currently we're treading water.
We are.
And when the water level comes down, you'll have a chance to assess whether that's a possibility going forward. But in the meantime,
Too many
we're trying to
things
keep
going on.
things productive and just keep things moving
Yeah.
forward.
So,
But is it an open question?
It is an open question, and at least at where we stand right now, my recommendation to the board would be just from my experience in my office and in talking to some other department heads, I do believe that we should look at a formal remote work policy after all this is done. My hesitation on entering into a policy right now is that things are so fluid, right? So I kind of like the flexibility that the board has extended to the department heads, which is, talk to the chairman, talk to me and the task force, make sure you're getting your job done, and we'll kind of give you some leeway, because I think that helps us in a very dynamic situation. If and when the world returns to normal, yes, I think having a well-defined policy that we can work within, I think would be great. And like I found, there may well be days, and I don't do it well, and the chairman knows because he tried to kick me out a couple times. But there would be times where it's in my best interest to say, you know what, I'm leaving the building, I'm gonna go work at home so I can get a giant report done for the budget officer or for the board or something, because sometimes that's my only way to do it. And what I do instead is I come in at 4 o'clock in the morning, or I stay until 10 o'clock at night, and it would be more productive to just do it during the middle of the day. And again, I found from my staff, I can get them more productive on certain things when they're not in the building. So yes, I wanna continue this after all this shenanigans has passed us. Right now, as long as the board is comfortable with what we're doing and you continue to support the flexibility we've given the department heads, I think it's working very well right now. And again, one of the good things of putting this together for you is, I think, at least my interpretation of this report, is that our department heads are really doing a great job managing their departments, because they don't have a one-size-fits-all. They've all kind of adapted it to what they need to do to complete their mission, and I think they've done pretty well.
Right?
Yeah, and I think the department heads, through this crisis, or the whole program here, they have been able to identify that they have some very unique employees that excel working at home, and there may be others that just won't work for it. And some of that's yet to be known even.
Yep.
But I think there's been cases where we've seen that the amount of output and things, and they can measure by what's being done, what's getting back to them. So, and I think before you go with the policy, you kind of have to let the roadmap show itself before you can suggest what you should expect or can't expect. But there's really a difference of employees that are very, very capable at this, and others that may struggle with it.
Yep, and I've had
But the department heads seem to have a handle on that.
They do, and what I've been surprised at is I've had department heads come to me and say, look, XYZ employee is great at home, this one just doesn't do well at it. And what I've also heard from some department heads is they've had employees come to them and say, I need to be in the office.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just no good at home. I can't get out of my rudder, I got too many distractions, whatever. So I take that as a great sign. I mean, we've got employees who are going to their department heads and saying, you know what, you need me to be in the office, because for me to be at my best, I gotta be in the office. And then you've got others who, the department heads have said, man, this employee's just knocking it out of the park at home. So, you know, A, I think that speaks well to the management of our department heads, and, B, to your point, I think that's my hesitation about a policy.
The policy's gonna be tough to.
Correct.
Well, the policy is
Take
gonna
that
be
out of-
impossible because with all these departments you said, apples, oranges, pomegranates, peaches, pears, grapefruits, you name it, because everyone's gonna, I think you need a policy almost for every, because probation and DSS and, you know, Patty's a totally different universe.
So what I might throw out there is the Washington County remote or telework policy may be. Telework is allowed and encouraged when, at the discretion of the department head, it can be effective and efficient.
And then they can each have their own departmental guidelines on top of that.
That's where I was headed.
Yeah.
But we're not down that road yet.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's gonna take a while for that to develop.
Yep. Okay.
But quicker if we keep getting locked out.
And I think a lot of companies are finding that out, that their employees being very productive at home, and they're considering shifting some of the people out. The second thing is that we open up some office space, we can rent it out for income.
Good luck with that.
Yeah. Any questions regarding that issue, Sue?
Chris, with the people that are working remotely from home, maybe they are able to do the job, but maybe they don't have the internet connections available so that they can do their job. Has there been at-home service available from Terry to help people with new router boxes, new servicing, so that they can work from home, or have we not done that?
No, so I don't think we, fortunate or unfortunate, we haven't honestly, to the best of my knowledge, been asked to do that. So
Okay.
what we seem to be finding ourselves in is the prototypical digital divide, that many of our employees have internet access of one degree or another and have their wireless networks at home set up, and they can just take a laptop and they're good to go. Our other employees, it doesn't seem to be that they have it available but don't have it working or anything like that. It's just they're in that position where there is no internet available. So there's nothing we can do for them to try to facilitate that connection. And that was one of the reasons, I think I mentioned this to the board before, NISAC had sent out a request for us, for all the counties to submit what their infrastructure priorities were as the federal delegation was starting to negotiate round 4 of the stimulus. And what I put in, and apparently NISAC didn't like it because it didn't make the letter, but what I put in was the biggest infrastructure benefit they could do is to put fiber to every home in rural broadband. And I use the analogy I always do, which is rural electrification in the early 20th century. We should use the same model, tax the areas that already have it, you make a dedicated fund, and you use that to deploy the infrastructure to the more rural, non-economical areas. Because really, I feel that, especially with education, that this shutdown has highlighted the impact of the digital divide. And when you've got kids that have to ride up to Davidian and piggyback on Adirondack Technical supports free Wi-Fi in order to do their homework, that's a significant disadvantage to those families when those who are fortunate enough to have the internet, the kids can sit with their Chromebooks right at the dining room table and do their schoolwork. So it's the same thing for us as an employer. When we have 2 employees, I'll pick on assigned counsel. We've got 2 employees who, with laptops, could do their job very effectively remotely, and yet they just happen to live in areas where they don't have access to internet. So, you know, I feel that would be a big priority and would be a huge economic stimulus if the federal government were to do it. But apparently NISAC did not agree.
Anybody else have any questions for Chris on the status of the departments? Sue?
Could we, as a Board of Supervisors, support your letter and encourage them to look at Washington County further like we did for Warren County?
Yeah, and actually, I believe I got an email from Congresswoman Stefanik's district director yesterday that the Congresswoman would like to call into our board meeting on next Friday. And that may be a better opportunity rather than a resolution or something, is, you know, maybe if a supervisor or 2 just wants to bring that point up. I think the Congresswoman gets it and would support that idea, and maybe hearing from all of you would help further that agenda.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else on that, or anything else to come before the committee this morning? Melissa?
do have two other items under other that I just wanted to mention. The Kronos upgrade, I've had questions, where are we with that? It is still being worked on. There was a little delay with Hayes during the whole COVID onset, where they were working with other clients as far as building what they needed because of that crisis. But we're back on track, working on the upgrade. I think we're going to have to discuss, and I'll discuss this with Terry at some point as well, that when we are ready, which we're getting closer and closer every day, as far as the training goes, that possibly Hayes can provide that remotely, because, you know, usually they would come on site and provide that training in large groups of people. So I'd like to see what they can offer us as far as some remote training before we actually implement the new system. The other item I did want to mention, because I've had questions on this as well, the civil service exams. When back in March, when all of this started, New York State Civil Service left it up to each agency, each personnel officer in each civil service agency to determine whether or not they wanted to cancel exams, reschedule exams, or go forward with the exams. I chose at that point to reschedule the exams that we had scheduled from mid-March right through June. Typically, there are no exams in August anyway. So at this point, I will be waiting for New York State to reschedule the exams, and we'll go from there. Once they're rescheduled, we'll have to start giving them. I have made the decision not to offer the police officer and deputy sheriff exam in September. I tossed that around and around for 2 to 3 weeks, had discussions with the sheriff. We do have lists for both positions. We gave the exam last year. We've given it yearly for the last probably 2 or 3 years. But I don't think it's in our best interest to hold an exam of that magnitude in the fall for this year. So I'm trying to play it by ear. It's kind of hard because when you give civil service exams, you're bringing a large group of people into the building. And I just don't know yet that we're quite ready for that. So I just wanted to make everyone aware where I am with civil service and those exams.
Okay, any other? Anybody else have anything before we adjourn? All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Dave, seconded by Don, all in favor? Opposed? Carried, we're adjourned. Thank you.